audience for today. So when you think of the word superhero, what comes to your mind first? Maybe it's Superman, who's faster than a speeding bullet and more powerful than a locomotive. Or maybe it's Captain America with his super strength, healing power, and indestructible shield. Or maybe it's Spider-Man with his spider senses, wall crawling, and superhuman speed. But when I think of a superhero, I think of my grandma, Marlene McLaughlin, who I called Grams. While she may not have had some of the same superpowers as some of these superheroes, that doesn't make her any less of a hero. I'm not just saying that because she was my grandma. Anyone that knew her can verify just how super this hero was. She was born April 29, 1936. The good Lord called her home on February 28th of 2006 at the age of 69. Although it has been 17 years since her passing, it still feels like yesterday. On behalf of my family, we cannot begin to express how grateful we are that you came here today to pay tribute to her in her life. At the time of her passing, she had 5 children, 11 grandchildren, and 9 great-grandchildren. She was a perfect mix of all things. She was tough yet soft. She was bold yet spoke her mind, yet she was kind and gentle with her words. She would call someone out if they were wrong with no hesitation, but yet she didn't do so in a hurtful way. She was a straight shooter, but she never made a person feel like she didn't love them. She had a way of letting you know if she didn't agree with you, but that she also loved you unconditionally. Although she endured many hard times in her life, you would never hear her complain. She came from a family of 8 children. She grew up on a farm, and her father passed away when she was very young. After her father's passing, her family did not have very much money, and she didn't see much hope for her future in her small-town Missouri farm. So as an adult, she moved to the big city. After she moved to Kansas City, she married and divorced twice, and she found herself a single mother of 5. She found herself in a similar situation and family dynamic that she grew up in, yet she never complained. Even when her sister married her ex-husband, she was able to forgive and still love them both, and she still never complained. She faced her situation with a smile and love in her heart. She worked many years at Olin Mills Portrait Studio, and then she began cleaning houses with her closest sister. She was always a hard worker, and she never called in sick a day in her life. Even on her last day working, her sister had to call her kids and let them know that she refused to leave work and she was trying to vacuum on her knees. Yet she still never complained. This shows how hard of a worker she was. Her work ethic was unmatched. After that last day of work in 2001, she went to the emergency room and they found that she had a severe infection and it had gone into her bloodstream and into her heart. She had to have her heart valve replaced, and after years of smoking, she had developed emphysema and COPD. The doctors gave her a 10% chance to live through her heart surgery. But she pulled through. She went through a season of recovery, but yet she still never complained. After her surgery, she was placed on oxygen for the remainder of her life, and yet she still never complained. She faced her situation with a smile. I would like to tell you that my grandmother was a strong Christian for her whole life, but that's not how her story went. A couple of months before she passed, her oldest son, which is my dad, who had been in and out of prison for his whole life, brought a pastor to talk to her while she was on hospice. A few short months before she passed, she accepted Jesus as her Savior. Now, the first thing that I would like to highlight is that even in an unlikely circumstance and through unlikely people, Jesus can still reach us. The second thing I would like to leave you with today is within the story of the crucifixion of Jesus. Now, you may or may not know that while Jesus was hanging on the cross, there were 2 men hanging beside him. And we find this in Luke chapter 23, 32 through 43 in the New Living Translation. And it says this: the 2 men were both criminals. They were led out to be executed with him. When they came to a place called the Skull, they nailed him to the cross, and the criminals were also crucified, one on his right side and one on his left side. Jesus said, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they are doing." And the soldiers gambled for his clothes while throwing dice. The crowd watched, and the leaders scoffed. "He saved others," they said. "Let him save himself if he's really God's Messiah, the chosen one." The soldiers mocked him by offering him a drink of sour wine. They called out to him, "If you're the king of the Jews, save yourself." A sign was fastened above him with these words: "This is the King of the Jews." One of the criminals hanging beside him scoffed, "So you're the Messiah, are you? Prove it by saving yourself and save us while you're at it." But the other criminal protested, "Don't you fear God, even when you have been sentenced to die? We deserve to die for our crimes, but this man has done nothing wrong." Then Jesus said, Or then he said, Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom. And Jesus replied, I assure you, today you will be with me in paradise. So I leave you with two things today about my grandmother Marlene. Number one, even though she didn't know Jesus most of her life, she still loved unconditionally and without ceasing, just like Jesus. Number two, just as the man on the cross, my grandmother may not have accepted Jesus early in her life, but she did accept Jesus, and that tells us that we will see her again in paradise. So as we remember my grams today, remember to love with your whole heart, show mercy, and forgive those who hurt you. Work hard and do it all with a smile and without complaining. Thank you all again for being here today to pay tribute and remembering her today. My prayer for each and every one of you today is that no matter your circumstance, that you would face it with a smile. And no matter how old you are, that you would accept Jesus as your Savior, and that we would also see you in paradise. Thank you.